He said he was just there so his daughter Haley could meet Justin. Haley has since said, I didn't even know who Justin was. He was so early in his career. I don't know. My dad dragged me out of bed and brought me there. But it seems in a lot of ways that Justin and Haley were put together because Stephen Baldwin was interested in working with Justin. Now, his erratic behavior isn't new. It isn't even new as of this year. He's been acting erratically since, I don't know, 2017. I mean, like, there's been stories about him for a very long time of him not doing well. And his marriage and his return to his Christian roots was supposed to be the silver bullet for all of his problems. But then Hillsong went downhill, and, he's got this whole bevy of pastors that are supposed to encircle him and give him spiritual wisdom. For a person who seems to constantly be touted as the Christian celebrity, he seems to have more problems than any of them. I think it probably is because his counsel is so bad. I mean, considering the fact that Carl Lentz, lead pastor of Hillsong, was one of the people in his ear telling him how to manage himself, his time, and his walk with the Lord. It feels like, oh, well, maybe that's why he's got so many problems. And Justin has been linked for a long time with the fact that this church that he's now part of, called Church Home, is a cult, so they say. I did a dive on the church and I looked at the pastors, and honestly, I can't say that I found anything in their about page. I didn't go and listen to any of his sermons. So maybe if I went and listened to a whole bunch of this Pastor Smith's sermons, who is like his new guru, I might hear a whole bunch of stuff that's really problematic. I didn't find anything that was super problematic, except for the fact that it's just a very seeker-friendly church that probably waters down the gospel and is really into gimmicky things in order to get buy-in from celebrities and from the youths. Let's get the youths in church. But the problem is that the Lord doesn't need to be watered down and the gospel doesn't need to be depleted in order for you to accept it. This is not where the gospel is changed for you. It's where you are changed by the gospel. Anyway, it just kind of seems like one of those churches to me that's just very seeker-friendly. And so it probably has a bunch of things to get you in, but then I don't know what's happening with the discipleship after that. And if Justin Bieber is their most famous celebrity, I would say the discipleship program need a little bit of work. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, he's having meltdowns in public. And yet, there's a part of me that feels like this is the story that continues to crop up on this channel. Here we are at episode 501. Listen to the celebrities. They're telling you the truth. Justin was seen this past weekend having a meltdown with paparazzi. And he said something very peculiar. He says to the people who are taking pictures of him and harassing him, and this is, by the way, not the first time he's had a meltdown. We saw him recently, coming out swinging from a restaurant with only half a shirt on. He does look unhinged. He looked way more unhinged in that video. But in this most recent video, he's standing on the sidewalk, he's engaging them, and he says, I don't know who has sent you to harass me, but don't F with me.
I'm not to be f***ed with. I don't know who's paying you to f*** with me or provoke me, but I'm not the one. I don't care that you're on the sidewalk. I don't care what kind of dirty work, what kind of nasty shit you're getting paid in the background to provoke me, bro, but I'm not the fucking one.
Okay, I think that's very interesting language. I don't know who sent you to harass me. Because he seems to be making a claim that it would be advantageous for somebody to make him look crazy. And so the paparazzi are being sent to him to antagonize him, to drive him to reaction. And, everyone continues to compare him and Britney Spears and say, oh, Britney Spears was acting like this right before she had her meltdown and was put into a conservatorship. Is that Justin's fate? Well, it feels like it. It feels like they have a mapped out system for how to drive a celebrity into a conservatorship. And then who's in charge of the money at that point? Who is benefiting from the insanity of this very rich celebrity? Now, what I think is interesting is if we're going to compare the Britney Spears episode with the Justin Bieber episode, and we've done this before. We talked last time about the fact that Britney's meltdowns happened right after she became a mother. Interestingly, also, I think right after she turned 30. And they say that you have a complete rewiring in your brain at the age of 30 as a woman. I don't know how true that is. I haven't read a study. I've heard that. And you are no longer willing to keep the secrets that you kept maybe in your youth, or you become a maturing happens at the age of 30. A mental maturing happens. So that may have been Britney's thing. But I also think there's something to the fact that both individuals, once they became parents, are no longer willing to sit back and be sort of the brunt of everybody's decision making. So Justin comes out, and he tells them, I don't know who sent you to F with me, but I'm not to be F'd with. Okay. He seemed perfectly sane when he said that statement. What he's saying seems strange in that, is there a whole team that is looking to drive you to the brink of insanity? If he was the only celebrity to make that kind of assertion, if he was the only public figure we'd ever say, allude to the idea that there is a group of people who would benefit from his insanity and so are instigating these pressure points, then we would just be like, oh, wow, he really sounds like he's lost his mind. If he was the only one who had ever said something like that, or the only one we'd ever seen just go down a complete spiral. But this seems like the story as old as time when it comes to these young celebrities. When they're no longer putting out any more of the entertainment, when they have been so used and abused that they're starting to spiral mentally, it becomes incumbent on these groups who have managed them to not lose on their investment. So the best thing then is to make sure this person is put in conservatorship, and then, we can still be using this person as a meal ticket. I think what's really interesting is that Lou Taylor, who had managed Britney famously and then put her into conservatorship, is now managing Justin Bieber. And this has been well reported. But what I think is really interesting is that Lou Taylor sits on the board of Justin's new church. It's called Church Home. And this church, where that Pastor Smith is one of the lead pastors, is it's a church, but it's also an organization, and it's looking to bring people into church and make it less of a stuffy atmosphere. A place that you want to come. So it's called Church Home. And now Lou Taylor is managing Justin. And now it seems as though he may be in a conservatorship. And who's going to be in charge of that? Well, Hailey Bieber. Hailey never signed a prenup. So if she leaves Justin, and she is now this billionaire, having just sold her cosmetic company Rhodes to Elf, she stands to lose a lot. It'd be better for her to be in charge of him and have him under her dominion than it would be for her to divorce him. Now, here's the thing with the Hailey Bieber saga. There's a part of me that just feels has he ever been in control of his life? If he was under conservatorship, it would only be, I feel a formal label on an informal reality that he's lived his whole life. When he was 12 years old, he was discovered on YouTube, as we all know. And he was an instant sensation. And Usher took him on, creating this label that was just for him in order to house his catalog of music, just for Justin. And quickly, Justin is, just a little kid, but he's over there, he's hanging out with Usher, who had been mentored by Diddy. Diddy is now taking time with Justin. The infamous clip where Diddy's saying, I've got Justin for 48 hours. We're going to live a 15-year-old's dream. We can't tell you what we're doing. Justin looks nervous as hell, but also kind of excited to be part of the big boys club.
Where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Crazy.
Justin has always had a perpetually young face, so he looks like he's 10. But anyway, he's 15 in this clip. And it just feels like it was downhill from there. Obviously, he was infamously troubled, as he was growing up. There have always been rumors that he wasn't super strong mentally. But also, it seems like he's always been under the thumb of somebody else. He's never really seemed like he was fit and able to make his own decisions. Because he was so young, he would have been easy to control from an early age, but then it would have been a learned helplessness. Like, I don't know how to break out from people telling me what to do next. And I think some of the rebelliousness we've seen is him attempting to try to be his own person, but struggling because he was never given any kind of tools with which to do that. He doesn't know how to be an adult. He doesn't know how to exert his will without it being rebellion, because he's always been under authority. I think. Now, this is just me watching the whole thing. And loose forms of authority, not necessarily like this person is managing you, this person is going to tell you what to do. But I think that he has also easily put himself under the authority of people, because that is the only way he's known how to exist. Case in point, what is the deal with he and Haley's marriage in the first place? I feel like there's so much footage of him seeming to openly rebel against the marriage that he has with Haley. There's just so much footage of him not loving the fact that he's married to her, and not necessarily talking to her like he thinks she's like the best thing that ever happened to him. He's made lots of jokes about how this was an arranged marriage, and this was a setup, and his mom and Haley's dad, who's like a born-again Christian, he's problematic, by the way, in his own right, that they kind of arranged for the two of them, Haley and Justin, to be together because of shared family values. And then it's just sort of like this thing that just like happened. Everything sort of just seems to happen to Justin. He seems to really lack a will. But I don't think it's so much a lack of will. I think it's the undercultivation of a will. Anyway, my heart goes out to him, because I look at this person who is so seemingly uncomfortable in his own skin, like just yearning to be free from whatever is constraining him. And I think for him, as he doesn't quite know what is constraining him or how to beat back the onslaught of crushing pressure from all these people who want a piece of him. We'll keep our eyes on what's going on with Justin and what's going on with Lou Taylor. And if he goes under conservatorship, I think everybody needs to steer clear from Lou, because Lou is trouble. Lou will make sure that all of your rights and privileges are taken away from you, so that those who want to have their hands in your pockets can continually grab into your pockets. And as far as Hailey Bieber goes, I know that there's two camps out there. There are the people who think that Hailey swooped in and stole Justin away from Selena, and I think there is some evidence that she seemed weirdly obsessed with him. I think it was something that her dad pushed her into considering. Her dad seemed to constantly be taking her to see Justin, constantly taking her. And I think that her dad early on thought Justin could help his career. You'll recall that the first time Justin ever met Hailey and her dad, it was at the Today Show. And Hailey's dad, the lesser-known Stephen Baldwin, gave Justin a videotape. It was like a skateboard videotape, but it was also this... He had decided that he was going to create this ministry, although he didn't want you to call it a ministry. Let's be seeker-friendly here and not use, words like that. Where he was going to combine extreme sports like skateboarding and BMX biking with the gospel. And so he'd made a whole series of videotapes. And this ministry, because it was a ministry, he entitled this whole outreach program of his Assault. It was called Assault Ministries. But he gave Justin a videotape at the Today Show. He said he was just there so his daughter Hailey could meet Justin. Hailey has since said, I didn't even know who Justin was. He was so early in his career. I don't know. My dad dragged me out of bed and brought me there. But it seems in a lot of ways that Justin and Hailey were put together because Stephen Baldwin was interested in working with Justin. And how much easier would it be to work with Justin if his daughter was married to the man? Nobody comes and slides you a DVD of their latest project because they just wanted their daughter to meet you. I mean, that is so lame. So, but that's like not the first time her dad ever took her to see Justin. Then there was other times her dad took her to see Justin. And she even has said, yeah, my dad had Bieber fever. It was my dad's thing. I'm not saying that over time she didn't see that he was a viable option for a boyfriend. And they'd had Justin and his mom over for dinner. I mean, they were trying to become friends with the Biebers. So he wasn't like a stranger to her. But she is seen like stalking him a lot, but it kind of feels like at the instigation of her father. The whole thing is messy. It's who can know where the truth lies, but I am telling you, these people don't seem like super happy to be together. Also, I tell you this, she has made it her mission in life to be the mouthpiece for Justin's sanity. Like, she wants everyone to know Justin's fine. But if you were Justin, how much would you resent your wife going out and being like, you guys, he's okay. He's going to be okay, you guys. Like, I think any man would bulk against that. I think he would rebel against the necessity for this woman in his life to keep going out and like talking for him. I don't think that would go down well. But it's just my personal opinion.